So, good evening to everyone. Our sincerest apologies for the small delay. Unfortunately, our computer really didn't work out, but finally we are here. So, without further delay, we will present today about the Minoan seals and readings in linear A-proto Egeo-Anatolian. Of course, we thank the Societas Anatolica for their support and partnership, especially on further linguistic and cultural researches on early Proto-Aegean Anatolian connections. So, as you can see, we have here a very unique JASP seal connected with definitely writing, what is usually called Minoan hieroglyphic script. But obviously, we do see that there are many elements that we can work on. And this is basically the main topic that we will discuss today. We can turn to slide number 2. And slide number 2 will be about Minoan seals and Egeo-Anatolian documentation. So today is a very short presentation of the entire work we do, but I hope that you will see the different elements we have been working on. First one is presenting the visual protosyllabic and hieroglyphic aspects of Minoan seals and their parallels in Aegean and Anatolian cultures. The second is to make a brief summary of the lexical categories presented on the linear A tablets and Cretan hieroglyphic signs. The third is a reflection on the names of deities and possible Cretan, Aegean, and Anatolian royal lineages found on certain Cretan so-called triplets, because they have every time 3 or 4 elements, indicating female and male genealogy. We will see one example today. Fourth, the philological reflections on the Cretan and Minoan characters represented on verses, as well as in other documents from the ancient Near East, particularly in Egypt and Mary. We will discuss a bit this today, but we will add more material next time. Then 5, the examination of Mycenaean documents from Crete, reflecting the use of Cretan already manifesting as a form of Cretan Proto-Greek continental bilingualism. In other words, that the future Mycenaean is actually already developing in Crete. And this is, of course, very important. And finally, the translation clues for various seals and attempt to fix the main Minoan lexemes in Portuguese and Aegean Anatolian forms. Very good. Please, next slide, Eric. So, as we said before, we have a huge connection between the linear A itself and early Minoan scripts. Therefore, we need a cross-disciplinary approach. And in this research, we will try to demonstrate the usefulness of certain research tools, and which studies are essential for a deeper analysis of the semantic nature of Cretan hieroglyphic couplets. On the right, you can see a very important publication, which has been done by Professor Dr. Esther Salgarella and our colleague Simon Castellan about the science of linear A and the possible paleographical database. They do have a website, which I do use, of course, and I invite everyone to have a look at it. But the most important is that actually this is only part of the job, because obviously the science of linear A are actually connected to the Minoan hieroglyphs, and therefore it's important to try to connect both at the same time. Let's go further, please, with slide number 4. So as you can see on the left, we do have a small list, yes, of the linear A syllabic signs resembling linear B. Therefore, we do see, well, I just apologize for the small definition of the image, because that was the problem with PowerPoint. Either you have a huge image or a small one. But there are the references, of course, connected to the publication of Mr. Pope related to the linear reasonable lexicon, yes. And so we do see, yes, that the set of characters in question is not only similar to linear B, but also to Minoan hieroglyphic signs, leading us to consider a more or less common origin for the Aegean Minoan script within the Arawiya, the Arayoi, of course, the famous Arawiya of the Hittite documents, sphere of influence. We are currently working on a future comparative catalogue of each sign, bit by bit, but we will present here a few examples today. Now we can do the next slide, please. Slide 5. Thank you. So about the examples that we can use on linear A script, here this is a screenshot taken from the previous website we mentioned. And on Rania, for example, we do see not only the tablets, here you have approximately the same part of a tablet, but you do have also different fragments. And you can collide the fragments together, and then you will see precisely how the signs are worked on, which obviously is useful for two reasons. The first one, to separate the purely syllabic writing from a logographic writing, and secondly, to understand the elements related to the script itself. Therefore, as we vote on the right, we can observe immediately two aspects of writing, one syllabic and the other logographic. The same applies to the hieroglyphic aspects. One can observe each sign is carefully drawn to bring the attention of a reader towards essential informations, and that's what we call the MMO of Mino-Anatolian writing. We will come back to it later. Let's do now slide number 6, please. So here we have a very, I think, beautiful example of the beauty, the complexity, and the precious aspects of the Minoan seals, you see. We do see different scenes on each of them. For example, the one of the bottom on the left is related to a beautiful boat led by different persons rowing. But on the top, you can see on the top left of the same seal, we see honey making. Therefore, we understand that Crete exported mead and honey towards other places. And at the same time, the same Minoan seal can be understood as a writing with the word nawe, the word for naus, of course, the ship, yes? And therefore, each of these scenes, yes, on the top right, we have apparently a ritual related to either grenade or fig tree, yes, but clearly related to the harvest of important fruits to the goddess. And on the top right, we do have a celebration of a dance, really clearly. And this reminds us of ritual being taken into the actual Cretan goddesses. And therefore, engraved images provide a semantic background that can be reinterpreted in light of the logographic indications. Therefore, the MMO of Mino-Anatolian scripts appears beautifully combined. The M as methods of composed syllabic visual graphics, the M, the second one, motivation of transcribing a significant information to the reader, both visually and phonetically, and the O as the opportunity to minimize the space required for writing and optimizing all aspects of composed semiographics. And when we use these three elements of MMO, specifically for hieroglyphic Minoan seals and related document, we do find excellent results. Here is one example. Slide number 7, please. Thank you, Eric. So you do see on the left, yes, a very famous Minoan seal, which, by the way, had been already detected by no one else than Sir Arthur Evans, and he actually had understood that this was a very interesting aspect of Cretan nature. But obviously, at his time, nobody knew linear B. So obviously, there was no way to understand truly what it could be. Now, the interesting is that we do know from linear A that the right side is read always ni. We do know from the left side that this is the sign in linear B and E for wa, and the central sign, which is clearly like a large foot, yes, or leg, can definitely be read as pus podus. And so together we have a combination, pot, ni, wa, which is just the two small moons in the top, and ya. In other words, the famous classical Greek word potnia, but which, by the way, we do have in linear B. Yes, we have poti ni wa yo in linear B, which is a very important element because we can cross both aspects. But most important, we do understand that the visual writing is not just visual, it's lexical and also, so to speak, logographic, because the food is taken as a full word, the other elements are taken as a small shortened abbreviation of the same elements, but altogether we do have a representation of the goddess. Now, obviously, it would be so interesting to know exactly which goddess, obviously, but we do understand that this was a part of the attributes of goddesses in Crete, which had to be mistresses, among others, of animals. For more references, this particular seal is found in the General Hieroglyphic Collection of CHIC 293. It's the General Corpus Minoan Seelen of number 2, volume 2, and of Adromele. And then we can move to the slide number 8, which is for me a very important element, which means that usually people or scholars related to linear A or hieroglyphic scripts tend to forget the iconography of Minoan vases. Although in our case, we do think that this is a very important key because all of the elements we can see visually on these vases match the elements we do have on hieroglyphic script. Therefore, I wanted to bring the attention to a very interesting person, a marvelous potler, but also a dedicated person related to Aegean world. His name is Vasilis Politakis. He was born in Heraklion, Crete in 1965, and he has created a beautiful website presenting different pottery of the Aegean and Cyprian Bronze Age and the different reconstitution he does himself. Here you have a marvelous picture how he tries to reproduce the same method of Minoan pottery. And obviously, it's a marvelous work, I think. And now we can move to the next slide, please. I hope you will see the next slide. Yes. Do you see it, the next slide, please? And we do have here two beautiful examples. On the right, these are original Minoan vases, especially the one which is the black one, which is a very beautiful octopus presented in all its different colors. On the left, these are reproductions made by the person we mentioned before, but represented as we should see them in an archaeological context of Minoan period. And therefore, we do understand, yes, the importance of pottery inside of a Minoan civilization. It was not just about using instruments to bring food or to keep essentials for different elements, but also to present a very important part of the writing, the culture, and the understanding of the Mino-Anatolian civilization. So here you can please have a look to these examples, and then we can move to slide number 10, please. Here is just one problem, interestingly. Why this one he did not translate, although I had translated, but anyway, I will translate it myself. It's not a problem. So here we do see an original octopus which is currently kept in the Historical Museum of Heraklion. Interestingly, for the anecdote, 1 year ago, this vase was almost broken because, unfortunately, an interested visitor came nearby this marvelous vase. He slipped on the floor, and while trying to stand up again, he leant against the vase. The vase fell, broke, but thank God they succeeded to rebuild it again. I hope, by the way, for the anecdote, that now the Heraklion Museum will keep those vases in a very specific area in which people cannot reach them, because obviously these vases are extremely beautiful, but extremely fragile. You have to understand that they are more than 3,600 years ago, so it's very fragile. But the main point here for me was to look how carefully, how beautifully, and how delicate has been painted this octopus on the vase. And you can see that the painter has taken a huge amount of time and very precise in his different drawings, so that the octopus really fills inside the entire volume of the vase. So there is nothing left to any chance. Everything is fitted precisely in this place. Unfortunately, we cannot know for sure precisely which place had the octopus in the early Minoan cults, but we do understand, of course, that the octopus was very important for seafood, as well as an important animal for interesting elements. And it's possible, because we do have the example in Hittite civilization of divination with small fishes as well as eels, yes. Well, I would summarize that there is a possibility that octopuses were also used for specific divination, and therefore these octopuses would have lived near of palaces, and they were used in specific rituals to make specific divination rituals. This will explain why we do have such elements of the octopus in many different vases of ancient Crete. Now we can move to the slide 11, please. Eric, could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So the Minoan Anatolian principal script features. So these multisyllabic and polyseme systems allowed for the elegant and precise transcriptions of two languages. First one is a Creticized Anatolian and a Proto-Greek language that will later become the future Linear B, also known as Mycenaean, but that we could more accurately call Continental Proto-Greek, especially since we know that from Pylos, Pyruso, among them in Cypriot, and Thebes, among other places, produced numerous tablets, as did Knossos. A second article we will be preparing for this autumn will focus on the valuable aspects of Minoan Greek and comparative lexicography. Now we can move to the next slide, please. Still so much to be done. Encore tant à faire. Still so much to be done. Indeed, the first major problem is that while Aegean and Cretan Mycenaean seals are visible online, there is no comprehensive databases for classifying them by combinatorial symbols, and this does not exist yet. This is something we are currently working on. Secondly, the linear A script is still relatively poorly studied, but we now believe we can contribute to its analysis from perspectives more conducive to genuine Aegean, Anatolian, and philological reflections. This presentation, and I really wish you liked it, is just a taste of what we have planned for the next 2 years, but we hope it has inspired you to explore the wonders of Crete, whether archaeological, religious, culinary, of course, or calligraphic. Now, the last slide, but not the least, the number 13, please. And so, obviously, We would like to convey our warmest thanks to my dearest wife, to our son Leon, of course, to my dad and mum, and our friends, among others Eric Raymond and plenty of others, who are always there to support our ideas and linguistic semiographic research. And here I chose this beautiful steatite prism seal for a very good reason. You can see on the left that this is exactly the copy we saw before on the jasp seal with Podni Waya. So we do know that this is the word for the old goddess mistress, Podnia. Now the one on the center is possibly a dog or a griffin. It's not exactly clear, but what is interesting is it seems to relate to a specific element of the royalty in Crete. As for the right, yes, we do see, of course, an arachnea. Yes, we do see a spider. But it's interesting because we do know, yes, that Athena, among others, was really related to arachnea, and that symbolic was the symbolic not only of the textile, but also of the protection of a specific knowledge. You can remember, of course, with Crete, the aspects of a mythos, the famous long rope inside of a labyrinth, yes? Well, obviously, Ariadne was a follower of the goddess of Arachne. Therefore, we do understand that this seal tries to remind important aspects of a Cretan culture. And so together, we think that we started to propose very valuable readings. Well, that's pretty much all for now, except again, thank you so much for your patience. Apologies for the small technical problem. And we do hope you enjoyed this presentation, and we are here to answer any questions. Merci beaucoup, Eric.
Well, thank you, Alexandre, for this really interesting presentation. And I was expecting, I was expected the recipe of octopus, but I didn't get it. So more seriously, I hope, I'm sure there is much question about your presentation or some remarks. And since we have the chance to host many students, specialists, and knowledging people, I don't know if the expression is proper, but from all over the world, because we have some colleagues from Russia, from Iceland, from America, and so I'm sure they have some question to tell you. So to ask you. So please,
Okay.
who want to take the word? Uh, no, I don't know.
So, what was your
Yes.
personal motivation to pick this topic for research?
What was my motivation?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a long story, but said very shortly. It started when I was 14, because at that time I was following excellent classes of classical Greek with a professor which is still my very good friend. His name is François Motin. He has always been a very interesting scholar, and he was interested in collections. He's a collector himself, and he showed us his own collections of beautiful diapositive. Yes, that was the beautiful time in which you had diapos coming up. Yes, not like digital ones. And he showed us beautiful ancient Minoan vases, Minoan palaces, and everything. And this was the time, you see, it was in 1999, so it's a long time ago, yes. Well, this was the time in which linear B was deciphered. The linear A was a complete mystery. And our professor said at that time, I hope one of you in this class will try to decipher linear A. But obviously, Alexandre listened to this very carefully, and I decided that I should study linear A. That was the first start. Then there was the university with Egyptology, and obviously, I'm so happy I decided to study Egyptology because this became very useful later. But in my university, unfortunately, no one took interest into Crete, although we do know that we have a huge relation between Egypt and Crete. It's even mentioned in the ancient Egyptian documents. Yes, Crete is mentioned as Keftiu. So, of course, there's a small polemic about what exactly means Keftiu. Some people think that this is a part of Crete. Some people think it's a part of Crete plus South Anatolia. Some people think that this is the general Aegean Seas. But the idea and the clear element are that we do know that Egypt met Cretan people because we have beautiful iconography. Maybe that will be a good topic for a next presentation. We do have iconography of Cretan princes coming to Egypt, and they take together marvelous pitoi vases. And by the way, it's clear that pitoi is connected to drink, and that's why we have a word of pitos. And so, from that, I decided that I had to go further with linear A. Then I kind of finished my university studies, and I left apart a bit linear A because I had other elements in my life. And then about, let's say, 3 years ago, even a bit more, about 5, a colleague of mine, his name is Dr. Francesco Perono, and he's working in Singapore before. Now he's working in China, and he works, or should I say worked, on ancient Minoan scripts. And he had seen that I had worked on different decipherings, and he sent me a letter asking me if I wanted to join a project related to linear A. And I said, okay, fine. And then this professor told me that I had to contact another person in Canada. His name is Richard Valence Janke. And we started to work together. It worked well until the moment in which this person started to have their own minds, and therefore I was kind of, thinking what to do next. And then Eric Raymond came in, and he started to get interested about what I do linear A. And it was a precise time in which in Moscow there was a huge interest about early Crete, early Anatolian everything. Vladimir Celestin can speak about it, so he knows what I'm speaking about. And that's why I decided to make a presentation on linear A and how to work on these documentation at the Institute of Oriental Studies in Moscow, which is in Russian, Institut Vostogodenia Rossiyskие Academy Nauk. And from that point, I understood that first of all, the method was working, and secondly, step by steps words appeared. Some words appeared clearly Proto-Greek, some others appeared to be more specific to Anatolian, but here we are. So that was the motivation, the first motivation. And the second is obviously because we love ancient cultures because they are still alive. And that's why I try to show that now in Crete, you see, you do have plenty of Crete citizens and inhabitants who have a huge knowledge of Crete and who are just waiting for people like us to get interested into the island and everything. I hope I did not take too much time, but that's the answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Please. It's the opportunity to ask.
Did you use some secondary sources for your research?
Did I just didn't understand the first one.
Did you use secondary sources?
Oh, yes. I mean, you see, here we have 3 main elements. Now, the first one is related to linear A and hieroglyphic scripts itself. You have 3 main, very important publications. The first one is an old one, but it's a very good one. It's the Scripta Minoica, which were published by, among others, Sir Arthur Evans and his, so to speak, fellow student at the time, but which after became a very important scholar in Oxford, Sir Myers. And these volumes, the Scripta Minoica, they are really wonderful because they give you a huge understanding of everything which had been found in Crete in the beginning. By the way, it's not the time today, but the next time I hope, because we discussed this with Eric, I will show that we have Greek archaeologists who worked at the same time than Sir Arthur Evans, and these Greek archaeologists also collected many important early Minoan tablets. And therefore, if you combine both elements, you do find this. Now, the second secondary source is a very important one, but unfortunately not always easy to use, is the volumes of so-called Gorilla, connected to two excellent scholars of Linear A, but these volumes are not yet digitalized. And therefore, it means that if you want to study a tablet, you need to get into the book, to take the open page of a specific book, and then get the writing you want. So on one hand, it's good because you can compare very quickly, but on the other, it's more difficult if you want to connect words together. And then we spoke of Egypt, we spoke of Mari. Well, you do have text in Egypt, you do have text in Mari, mentioning Crete at the time of Minoan civilization. So you can use those texts in order to reconstruct a part of words which occur in different places. So that's basically the main secondary sources, not to mention the CMS, which I showed, which is the corpus of Mycenaean and slightly Minoan seals. And when you check the CMS, then you will have a lot of very useful comparison, especially iconographical comparison, that you can use. So that's basically it, basically. But it's a good question.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good question. And by the way, I hope I will make a list for the Societas Anatolica of all the important secondary sources you can use on Minoan scripts, because this is something which has not been done yet. So this could be a very good thing to do. Okay, but thank you so much. Now, Vladimir Celestin, for example, I'm sure you have a question. Monsieur colleague. So, any question or remark?
Yeah, I would like to thank you for this very interesting presentation. Actually, for me, there were more Minoan than Anatolian.
Yes, of course.
So for this reason, I cannot be an expert in this topic. Yes, but I think that it was impressive. So thank you very much.
Pajaza, you're welcome. And I look forward, of course, to your presentation, because I think you have also interesting things you can present for Anatolian early kingdoms. So it will be a good opportunity. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
And any other remarks or any ideas? As we will say in Icelandic, hold fint. If it's all fine, hold fint.
Maybe all is clear, and that's the reason why there is no question.
Well,
it could
I
be.
hope.
And yes, it's the third conference about Minoan seal, and I hope it's just the beginning of the series.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, definitely.
If there are no more remarks or questions, we can stop and finish our session if you want. So, okay, so
But thank you for coming. That's the most important. Thank you that you came.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation.
We are very pleased to host all of us.
Thank you for your presentation.
Outwind. Dank Thierry. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.